I am having what is called a real bad mental health day. One of the main reasons for that is because I live in a rented house. So any changes or alterations that have to be done to the property, unless it's an emergency, have to be done by my landlord. Now, before I moved into here, I used to live on a boat. And the first thing we had to do when we bought the boat, well, I didn't buy it, my children's dad did, was we had to completely gut the kitchen on the boat. Because what they'd done is they had put a household kitchen onto a boat. And when we finally stripped the entire kitchen out, the amount of black mould we found in that kitchen was absolutely unbelievable. Now, I do not care how much you pay for your kitchen. I don't care whether you've paid £100 or £1,000 for your kitchen, okay? When they fit your kitchen, regardless of wherever you live, if you have the choice and it's not already been done when you get there, make sure they do a good job. Because I do not care whether you have paid, like I said, £100 for that kitchen or £1,000 for that kitchen, or £20,000 for that kitchen. Once you strip back the veneer, this is what you're left with. Okay, it's MDF. So, on this side, these were the kickboards at the bottom near the sink where I've had the burst pipe. You can see that they've got this plastic coating on them. They've not done the edges. They've not done the back. And all the way down here is where the damp has got into the wood and made it go rotten. So when people say, it's like, I remember at school we did this story and it was about why did the king not win the war? And the reason he didn't win the battle was because the farrier, now that's the person that actually puts on the shoes, not the person that makes them. Sometimes a blacksmith will be a farrier and vice versa. But because the farrier basically chose not to put the last nail into one of the shoes that the king's horse was wearing, the shoe during the battle fell off, causing the horse to go lame, and then caused basically them to lose the battle. That is a story that we got told at school. I can't remember who wrote it. I can't remember why whatever. And it's the same with this. People say, oh, what's the point of basically sealing the whole thing around the outside? Well, it's common sense. The reason you would have sealed the whole unit is because it's veneered. It's MDF. It is not a solid piece of wood. And so what has happened over time, moisture has got into all of the areas where it's not been protected. And what it's done is it has basically blown the wood completely. Now, I have been here 8 years now, and I have painstakingly tried every single time we've had a burst pipe to prevent more water damage and obviously to prevent the kitchen from falling to pieces on me. This down here, unfortunately, I'm going to have to explain to my landlord, was the shelf. And what's actually happened is, again, because it blew and I was still using the shelves and they had maybe a little bit of weight on them. If the shelf had not blown, basically, it had been veneered all the way around, which it hasn't been, so that damp couldn't have got in, there would not have been what I would call a stress crack in the shelf, and it wouldn't have broke with all my stuff on top. So, yeah, that's fantastic. And sadly, again, a lot of stuff is going to have to be just thrown away. What can be salvaged and what can be saved, by all means, I would say to him, if you want to use it again, use it. Otherwise, if in doubt, throw it out. Okay? So when people are talking about black mould, I do apologise. I'm just going to slowly pan over to here. This is under my sink. of, this is what I love about old houses, okay, so it's not all going to be doom and gloom, is you can see like the history of a property. So here you've got the carpet tiles I've laid. Then you have some other tiles that somebody else laid at some point. For some reason, they decided to stop under the sink. So then you have these tiles under the sink. And then you have the old traditional copper pipework. Some of it is insulated, most of it is not, sadly. But what would have happened is, originally, before my first burst pipe, which was under here, there was a piece of MDF there to basically hide all of the pipework. That, to a plumber and an electrician, is an absolute nightmare. Yes, pipework is ugly. It's not attractive, okay? It's not got neon flashing lights on it, but it's under a cupboard. Do you really need a piece of MDF to hide it? Because the moment the pipe bursts, you can see there the corrosion, that the copper goes green when it's corroding. You know, you've got to remove that anyway, and you've paid for that. You've paid for that piece of MDF to go there. It's not really used as a support structure for the unit, all right? It's on the floor. Gravity is an amazing thing. If it's going to work, it will work, okay? Don't mess with the laws of physics and gravity and, you know, and all that. It's just a waste of time. And then you come to the new pipework, which is plastic and it's flexy. So you can imagine how much bacteria is in this. Let's not get into that one. And each one of those has been put with like a PTF sort of rescue tape. And it's all the way down there. So straight away you can see how much of the cupboard itself, if I just sort of pull out a little, has been wasted. This is under my sink, and this is wasted space, people. Wasted space because of where they have decided to drill into the wall. Wasted space because of the fact that the sink, and this is what a lot of people forget about, is it usually goes into the unit on top, it slots in, and again you've got all this space here that's going to be used by the sink capacity, and obviously the pipework's got to go somewhere. So instead of potentially, I don't know, using flexi pipe to start off with, or copper pipe, and having a U-bend here, for example, just like they've done here, why? Again, I don't know why they've done it this way. And then maybe drilling the hole there. Believe me, water will find a way to get out of something. Ask Severn Trent, you know? And there's this thing, it's called gravity, you know, and pressure. I'm not a scientist, but, you know, every reaction has an equal and positive reaction, and blah, blah, blah. And then all of this here wouldn't have been needed. So I would have been tempted to say to my landlord, when I see them later on this week, touch wood, MDF, is it possible, if you know the outside wall is sturdy, could we not just drill a hole farther up into the masonry? Does it really have to be that far down? You know, I mean, even the one for the for the outside tap, which never worked, is a lot higher. And that used central feed off the main sink to one of these pipes here somehow, somewhere. So when you are renting a house or renovating a house or whatever, look under the sinks, look under the cupboards, look at the guttering, look at anywhere that could be potentially a mold trap or, you know, a trap for, you know, corrosion. Now, those pieces of wood that I showed you previously, they were the kickboards. So again, on the boat, we didn't have kickboards. There was no point. There was no need for them. And just literally by opening it up, it's great if you can have cupboards on here, you know, doors on there. But even if you have doors on there, you don't necessarily need to always have the kickboards underneath. Okay? But straight away, just by removing a piece of wood, you have enabled that to be full open access. And I don't just mean like full open access for storage, for cleaning. You eat your food that is prepared in a kitchen. Okay? It doesn't matter whether the mold's on the floor, on the windows, on the ceiling, on the doors. There are these things, it's called mold spores. And once you've got them in your house, they will travel. And they can cause illness. You know, like respiratory issues. So this is why it's best to keep your house as ventilated as possible, and obviously easy to manage, easy to clean. And then if we go into this side, again, you can clearly see at some point the pipes have corroded and they've burst. And the same down here. And again, the landlord wouldn't have known about these, so I'm not blaming them. Because when they bought the house, you wouldn't have seen these pipes. It's only over the last 8 years, when the pipes have burst, that they've actually become more visible. And of course, the pipe is running along the floor as well. And again, rising damp or whatever could potentially cause corrosion to that pipe in the long run. And one of those will be for water, I believe. And one of those will be for gas to my boiler. So when I do have the plumber come this week, I will get them to, now that there is full access to all of the pipes, I will say, look, can you just check that there isn't any more leaks? Because I would hate for them to go away and then have to come back again. It's just going to be easier, faster for them to just check it. The last leak I had was actually at the other end of this pipe. Luckily, there was accessibility to it via my other cupboard. And I have done photographs and videos of that. I don't know whether I put them online. But the reason I've put this online is because there's been so much information out there recently talking about mould. Well, you can't really you can treat the mould, but what you want to be doing is eradicating it. And you're not going to be able to do that unless you are 99% sure as to where it's coming from in the first place. So now all of this is open, it's accessible to the plumber, it can be cleaned, it can be tested, it can be sorted out. And then I will liaison with my landlord and say, look, if you want to put cupboards back on in here, fine. But if you're going to do it, we're probably better off starting from scratch. And I know as a landlord, they're not going to want to spend the money. But there's so many opportunities out there now for reusing and recycling materials. So again, before you refit a kitchen, have a look online, see what's available. But at the same time, if you're going to have a kitchen fitted, make sure that they don't just veneer the front and that all of the actual woodwork, which is probably going to be MDF, is protected. Yes, it is a plastic cover, but that is a lot easier to clean, and you're not going to get damp in here unless it starts to blow. Thank you.